What's up, guys? JD here again. So not a super exciting video, but interesting to say the least. I gave you a little teaser of my 2001 Les Paul Studio in wine red that I bought when I was over in Japan. Got it for $600. So I was going to clean the frets and check to make sure all the frets are level and kind of polish the frets a little bit. So I'll get all set up and then I'll get back with you. All right, later, guys. All right, and we're back. So I don't currently have a high-speed fret rocker and all that, or a fret crowning file or any of that stuff. So what I use is just a little buzz-off kit that has these pieces of steel rod or whatever you want to call it. And basically, you just set them on the frets and you roll it across, trying to rock it back and forth. And if it doesn't rock it back and forth, the idea is that they're level. So I'm just going to roll it along as I go down the fretboard and kind of push on the outsides as I'm doing that to see if it rocks back and forth. So far, we're doing really well from what I can tell. This is probably not the best way to do this, but it does work. I've done it before on several guitars. And see, out near that end, I get a little bit of rock. But that could just be the fret ends. Yeah, it's probably fine. Let's see. I don't know if you can hear that, but right in there. Some of that's because there's some pretty good fret wear, but there's definitely a high spot on this one near the outside. So what I'm going to do is mark the center fret with my Sharpie very carefully, not to get it on the fretboard, although if I do, I'm going to clean it so it'll come off anyway. And I'm going to check one more time. Yep, that's the one. This one's good across there. And down here. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to go finish doing that and then I'll get back with you. Alright guys, I'm back. So I have the fretboard taped off somewhat. I've got this wonderful little device, which I don't know if you can see that. It's basically a piece of wood with a little divot out of it. And I take about 320 grits of sandpaper and put it on there. And what I like to do is use my finger just to kind of crease it a little bit so that basically you got a little give there. And you're going to use that. All the frets that I marked with my black Sharpie that were high, when I use my little rebar thing on them, I'm going to take and I'm just going to gently go back and forth. Nothing crazy hard. Just gently back and forth down to the ends. Just taking a teeny bit off the top there. And that is probably good. And now after I do that, then I'm going to grab my little rocker tool again. And I'm going to roll it down, trying to rock the ends. And we got nothing. Okay, so that was 320. This one is 400. So I'll just gently go over it with the 400, ever so gently. And then I'll take my steel wool, quad zero steel wool, and go back over it and give it a quick polish. And that's literally all I do. And I'll do that all the way down. So come back here with my 320. And I'll come down to this next one. And I'll go back and let's get back in that groove. Very gently back and forth. And then check it with my right size rocker here. And we're good. Now I've got one more right here that I gotta do, so I'm moving the tape down. Or just put new tape on is the easiest thing to do. You know what, hold on. Let's go back and polish this one up before I get too much further down. And I'm gonna do the whole fretboard with the steel wool, so the fact that I'm lightly scratching the fretboard with steel wool really doesn't matter to me. But let's get down here and do this one here. And I'll tell you what, I'm not going to bore you with the rest of it, but basically I just work my way all the way down. So when I get these done and it's time to polish or clean the fretboard, then polish the frets, I'll come back with you guys. Alright, so here we go, folks. So what I've done, like I said earlier in part of the video, I went all the way down with my little buzz off kit and basically hit the few high spots that there are. Typically, you would probably really want to just use a fret leveling beam and do it that way. I don't have one of those. I'm going to get one eventually, but that's kind of the poor man's way to do it. But realistically, you'd use like a Stumac fret rocker and a straight edge and all that, and kind of go down that way and do it. But this is a way that you can get good enough. It's not the best way, and I'm sure everybody will have comments on how they do it and the way you're supposed to do it, but that's how I do it. It does work. I've used it before on several guitars, and it's not a bad way to just, you know, knock down a few high spots if you got them. So now I'm just going to go through and essentially scrub the fretboard. I should probably be using some sort of something, but I'm just going to scrub them a little bit. And this fretboard's not too bad. It's a little gummy, but it's not terrible. And I'm just going to barely polish the frets, and I'm definitely going to be careful around the inlays because you don't really want to go digging into those. And I'm not trying to get this thing perfect because it's old and dinged up and everything else. I'm trying to get it just much better than it was. I've seen guys take and use a pick, you know, like you just grab, where's one? You know, an older pick where it's worn down, and I've seen guys kind of go in there and do this action. I mean, you can do that. This one is, I don't think, so bad that we need to do that. I'm just trying to take a light amount of the surface gunk off and clean the frets up a little bit. They were already in pretty good shape. Like I said, I bought this in Japan, and most shops in Japan, what I love is you go to shops here in the States and you get a used guitar. If it's a mom and pop shop and they've got, you know, an actual staff that knows what they're doing, then usually they will go through it and make sure it's good. A lot of times, if you go to a place like a big box store, I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to disparage any store, but I've definitely bought used guitars at, you know, say a big store where everybody would go to sell a guitar to, that however that guitar gets brought in, they're going to sell it to you, or give you the money, I mean, when you go to sell it to them, and then they're going to hang it on the wall and do the whole 30 days waiting to make sure that it doesn't turn up stolen, and then they're going to sell it to the next guy or gal, and however that guitar was when it came in, that's how it was. But a lot of times when you go to like a Japanese store, even their little pawn shops, I have bought guitars where it, no kidding, was set up and worked on. I don't think that's the case with this one, but yeah, anyways, like like I said, I'm just trying to make it a little bit better than it was. So it's a little more playable. Nothing crazy. I like them a little dinged up and worn, if I'm being honest. Just working my way down. And again, if you're going to use steel wool to clean your neck, when you get around the inlays, you got to be careful because you could go ripping into them. So I'm kind of just being careful. Again, it's quad zero steel wool, which is pretty low impact on this rosewood board. I wouldn't do this on an ebony board. Alright, so I'm going to finish that up and then get back with you guys when I oil it. Alright, so just to recap, we used our buzz off fret leveling kit, went down and kind of leveled everything out. I took one of these little nail file things that's kind of foamy and soft, and I sort of just basically kind of do one of these on the ends of all the frets and just kind of barely roll that off. I do the same thing on the edge of the fretboard, although this one's already rolled pretty good, but I do that on most of my guitars. Yeah, I know people are going to be like, oh my god, you're rolling. Makes it play 1,000 times better. So you just got to be careful when you do it that you don't go scratching the fretboard all up. But I mean, most of the guitars I play are fairly beat up anyway. So went through and did all that. Everything looks pretty good. What I like to do, and I learned this trick from somebody else, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's another YouTuber, is I take a magnet, right, and I put it in a little rag here. If I can get that right, kind of like so, and then I will run that magnet all over, right, from top to bottom, and what that's going to do is all my little remnants of steel wool, it's going to pick all that up. So I'm going to go along and do that and get every little thing cleaned up. Alright, and run her back and forth over everything, and that'll get everything cleaned up. Alright, that should do it. Alright, now let me get a different rag and we'll do a little bit of lemon oil. Here we go. And if you've never done this before, you don't need a ton of lemon oil. It goes a long way. I start with about a dime size on the rag, and then I kind of just rub it in all the way down, and then you'll get some on the frets and you'll need to clean that off. But I mean, overall, you just kind of, I just do one of these and just rub it in all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. And you'll feel it kind of soaking in. And I mean, I don't know if it matters or not, but if a little bit stays on your frets, I don't think it's that big a deal. I try to go back and wipe it off just because. There you go. And again, a little bit will do you, unless your fretboard, if you got super fret sprout because you let your board dry out a ton, then you may want to use more. But now I'm just trying to rub it in and clean a little bit more. Man, that's a good looking board. I'm sure I'm shaking my camera because the tripod's right up. Like I said in my other videos, I'm still learning the whole production side of things, so. All right, so we've done all that. Now I use the dry side and just kind of wipe it down a little more. And that is how I clean and level a fretboard. All right, thanks y'all, bye.